Okay,
we're live.
We're live.
We're live, but it doesn't look like we're live, like we say every time.
Yeah, but here's what I want to know. If I clicked out of there, would it still do all that? I would assume, because technically we're already live. But I always want to wait just in case. Anyway, here we are. We're being live streamed. Oh, I'm short today. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm short today.
I'm taller today.
Yeah, welcome to the party.
Yeah, EMPHORY talks, freedom speaks. Yeah. So we draw out of a hat each week, and we draw between our practices and principles. And this week we got principle number 6,
which is
matter on our human side and ether on our spirit side. Just a little recap, we're still kind of in the beginnings of this podcast. So when we talk about our practices, those are really the breakdown between our human and our spirit and how the law works in our human and spirit. And
did you say that? And I think you said about, because you said our practices are that.
Oh, principles. If I said practices, our principles, there are 36 of them. And they break down between our human and our spirit, the how it works, how the law shows up between our human and our spirit. Where our practices are really how we do it, how we practice, how we play with the law between both our human and our spirits. Today we're talking more about how it works.
And it works like,
it's really cool because like these things are so obvious once we say them, but until we actually say them, cognitively, we've never separated, we've never understood it. And so sometimes when I start to talk about the principles specifically, I'm always like, well, duh. And then it's not duh, though, because the first time that I heard this, freaking mind-blowing.
Yeah,
again, and maybe we don't need to do this every time. We're kind of new at this whole podcast. I'm new at this podcast thing. But just reminding you, like, we are coming from this model where the presupposition is that we are 100% human and we're 100% spirit. It's not 50-50. So when we talk about this, we're really understanding our design, which hopefully, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe it won't for you, but for me, it created a lot of freedom in understanding the how it works, separating my human, separating my spirit, so that I got out of the enmeshment of applying a lot of times the spirit laws to my human or my human laws to spirit and didn't even know I was doing it. So that's really the importance of this breakdown and us going through them one by one to just play in the energy of them. So back to where we're at.
Well, and I'm going to do one more little caveat. Because, and we talk about this a lot inside the container because of what we're doing and undoing. You can totally turn that off.
I am
we
about
can switch places.
I'm about to die, but it's fine. I kind of like it kind of down. We'll see.
Okay, I have a space heater down there, but Gina's on that side. So, oh, that's so weird because I'm like, did you actually turn it off?
I didn't think when you looked down there.
Hear it. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so all right, back to where we're at. We a lot of times think, even if you wouldn't say it out loud, a lot of times we think that the spirit side of us is the good side, or the spirit part of us is the good part of us, and our human is the bad part of us, or our human is the naughty part of us, or our human is the one that we need to like whip into shape. But when we look at our model and we recognize that we are 100, and there is this aspect of, well, am I a human having a spiritual experience, or am I a spiritual being having a human experience? We like to talk about how it's just an experience. It's not one doing the other experience. It's just an experience, because you can't actually be a spiritual being without a body, right? Because if we go into spirit, because spirit is all one thing. So, so part of the undoing that we do in this container is really not seeing the spirit side as the good side and the human side as the bad side. And that's what really makes the separation, like Gina was talking about, so much fun, because we get to see where the spirit is actually more naughty than the human in some areas that we blame the human for. But we're not going to talk about that right now, because we're going to talk about ether and matter.
Yeah.
So I actually, at first I was like, oh, that one will take us like 2 seconds, but not really, because we think, well, everything comes from, like, you know, thoughts are things, but our thoughts are still in our human. Ether, however, is this thing that is unmeasurable, that is out there. So a lot of people might call this the field, or
Like, how do you measure space?
quantum. Yeah. And even think about that, the word space, like the only way to create limitations in space is by way of matter, right? So space is unlimited. But I like the ether and the matter, because it's not like ether is something that is not anything in the human. So even our thoughts are actually, like, to some degree, matter, because we can measure them with a not an EKG, EEG, is that whatever they put on your brain to show where your brain is doing things. Anyway, so that's kind of what I have to say about that, that it's more than just the invisible, the ether is, because it's a power.
Yeah. Is even trying to describe ether is very difficult for me. Obviously, when we're talking about the spirit side is undescribable. And so trying to give words to something that I like the example you've used in some of the videos about ether, like the Ethernet cord, right? Like the thing the unseen travels through the matter, just like you were describing. And so the complementariness of matter and ether, like on their own, like how do you play with ether?
Yeah.
How do you truly separate them? I guess matter makes more sense because I can see it. It's the things that we can feel, touch, see, taste. I mean, that's what gives it matter. But
yeah.
No, this is just an interesting one.
It is an interesting one. So this morning, in our group coaching, we were talking about, we always start out with wins. And one of the gals in our group was like, oh, I was throwing away my daughter's stuff because I'm purging, I'm getting rid of things, I'm like making space, I'm not hoarding and holding things anymore, right? And she says, I got rid of my daughter's stuff that were like too small or stained, and all of a sudden she said she realized she only had a few shirts for her, and she's only like just under 2, and so, you know, they make a lot of messes, and you go through a lot of clothes and they get stained really easy, and she's like, well, that's okay. I can always go to the store and get more or whatever. And then she said she found a whole like thing of 10 t-shirts from
The Honest Company.
The Honest Company. And she's like, I must have bought them sometime and not remembered or whatever. And I'm like, no, this is how our thoughts become things, because the ether is like there's nothing there, and then matter, there's something there, right? And this is why the ether isn't, because like even if we look at what Einstein said, E equals mc squared, energy equals the speed of light times or E equals m, matter times the speed of light, right? So it's still a comparison, which means if E equals matter times the speed of light squared, matter and energy are still the same. And so we're not even talking about energy from the perspective of the opposite of matter, because those equal each other. So they're the same. We're talking about the opposite of, which then is why it throws in a whole different dimension of, because really this is energy, right? But we think energy is the unseen, but that's not the ether.
Yeah.
It's actually spirit, which is opposite of human in the way that we talk about it, right? Because energy is everything. So energy doesn't have an opposite. There's the absence of it, which is impossible, but it's the absolute, right? Which is why there's not really the absence of it in consciousness, but we can perceive the absence of it.
Yeah, this one on its own is really hard for me to like talk about, like without the other principles, because even the example you gave about earlier, the shirt showing up, like that's what's possible. It's just like, again, I'm going back to the internet, right? Like people can see us live right now, even though they're very far away. Like it's not bound by space or time. It's not finite, but yet it uses this transference of something that is finite, that is, it shows up in the human,
which is the integration.
Yeah.
Right. Which is what's so cool about our model, because what we talk about is like everything is already there. However, consciousness dictates the experience of what is already there. So we talk about how we have 4 phases: black phase, first half of the white phase, second half of the white phase, and the red phase. And that the black phase, we're enmeshed, right? There's still these 2 parts of us, but they're enmeshed. And I don't know what this is, and I don't know what that is, and I don't know what's me and what's Gina or what's somebody else or what's ether or what's matter. I don't know. I'm in confusion, which is why we separate it, which is the white phase, separation. So that the red phase, we can integrate it back in. So when we even talk about what Jean is talking about the fact that the ether and matter are opposite, but yet you can't really experience the ether without the matter. Why? Because we're actually like, it's one experience. It goes back to, it's 2 sides to one coin.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny because like I literally want to separate all the time, but it's not possible.
Right.
Like
our consciousness does, though.
Yeah.
Our consciousness can separate, but we can't be separate. Nothing can be separated in reality, which goes back to that whole, it's the thing, but it's the or it's the absence of the thing, but the absence is only in our, again, consciousness.
Yeah. I was just trying to look up a definition of ether to play with, because I really I get it until I have to talk about it. And then it's like, oh my gosh.
So what's the dictionary definition of it?
Well, there's a chemistry definition of it, which is a pleasant smelling, colorless, volatile liquid that is highly flammable.
Oh.
The literary definition is the clear sky, the upper regions of the air beyond the clouds.
That. What the fuck is that? How do we do that?
Yeah. This is a spiritual meaning, but ether is the synergy of all elements. Ether is space, stillness, that which contains and holds. Ether is the element that connects us to spirit, intuition, other realms, and planes. That's someone's definition of it. I mean, everything's someone's definition, I guess.
Yeah.
How do you describe it?
Everything. It's not matter.
Right.
That was kind of a cheap way to describe it, but
is air matter?
Yes. Because if I blow it into a balloon, the balloon expands. Therefore,
I think for a long time, I mean, just from a yoga perspective, like air and ether kind of play hand in hand. So I think they're kind of stuck together for me. but they're not the same. And I also understand that. Ethers. Yeah, I don't really know where to go.
Yeah. Well, then what else? Do you want to talk about something else? Or, because guys, when we do our principles, there's going to be some where we're like, yeah, okay, it's physical and non-physical.
Yeah.
There's
pull
some
another
that are, okay, we'll pull another one.
Principle 22.
Oh,
We have to look at
hold on, we gotta look it up. Hold, please. Hold, please. Oops, wrong place. Oops, wrong place. Wait, where was I here? 22.
Incomplete and perfect complete. That always makes me feel like that was this, like, oh, I get that one. My whole body was like,
yeah, I love this one.
I love this one too.
What's really sexy about this one is, like, for so long, like that whole perfect thing, right? And I understood it from like the biblical like understanding of it, like God is perfect. And if we're made in the image of God, then we're perfect in some facet. But like I didn't have any like behind it, because I was just like, but that's what it says and I can feel it. But then when I actually looked up the word, guys, when you look up the word, whether it's the dictionary definition of the origin in the Bible, both say that the word perfect means complete. Yet in our human experience, we can't ever be perfect because we're still alive, which means there's still more. Yet in our spirit, the seed that is the thing that knows why we came to the planet has a beginning and an end. It already knows, it's already complete. So perfect isn't like without flaw. It is complete, which is very different. Now I'm getting toasty, so Gia's going to talk about this while I go under here and turn this off.
And the heater saga. I think when I first, like when we went through the principles the first time, this one, along with, is it imperfect and perfect? We have it perfect on here in two different ways.
It's not enough.
Oh, not enough. Yeah. And both of those gave me this immense relief. Because I would say this is where, when I talk about like how enmeshed I was applying so much of the spirit to my human. And I had expectations that I should be, perfect in all the ways, complete, flawless, enough. And I was always searching. I wasn't enough. I wasn't complete. I wasn't perfect. But that was the expectation I put on myself, which was really heavy. And when I saw, oh my God, part of me is complete. And part of me isn't, and it's his design. And it was just very freeing, because then, like Lori just said, my incompleteness, I always get to have more, which is another principle, but it plays into this so well. I found a lot of like flaw in myself for desiring or wanting more. I thought I shouldn't need anything else. But my human always will. Always. Like, I mean, some people might not need food, but I do. Like, I want and need food until the day I die. Like, that's fun for my human experience. And so it's fun to be incomplete there. It's fun to be incomplete in terms of relationship too, because then I get to have relationship with other people. So this one to me was just incredibly freeing.
Yeah. And I love, like, okay, if you are a woman, and I know men deal with this too, but I'm not a man, so I'm not going to speak to it. But if you're a man and you want to speak to me about it, that's great. But like almost every woman that I've ever talked to at some point in time has said, I want to be perfect, or I'm trying to be perfect, or they're doing things that it's obvious that they're trying to get it perfect, right? And then like there's wrongness with being a perfectionist and blah, blah, blah. But like Gina said, when we actually apply it appropriately, we get to go, wait, no wonder I was trying to be perfect, because I am, right? So there's no more wrongness or guilt about, oh, you're a perfectionist. Well, because it's built in my design, I've just misassigned it. Yeah, I've just misassigned how perfect resides in me. It's my spirit side. So that actually was me trying to act out the integration, only it was misassigned, right? Like Gina was saying. And so to me, it's like that two sides to one coin, but it's like, ooh, I get the relief of not having to be perfect, recognizing that more is my human design, but I also get to get rid of the guilt of who I used to be when I was perceived as unhealthy. Because for me personally, my perfectionism was very unhealthy. Like some people just maybe they have times in their life where, you know, they don't finish something because they're afraid it's not going to be perfect, or they don't try something. For me, it actually became a sickness in me that drove me in just really not healthy ways, with my children, with my spouses, with my body specifically. Definitely with my work, but it left me empty, right? Yet the whole time I was just seeking that integration. I was seeking to understand how it was built. So I think, again, like Gina, the coolest thing about this model is then we get to go, oh my gosh, I'm okay. Right? Totally. I'm okay for being like that. I'm okay because I didn't know, right? Knowledge is power. I didn't know. Now I know. Now I can appropriate it. Appropriate it correctly, whatever.
The other thing that's popping up for me as we're talking is one of the challenges I've had, and I think I even said it this morning during coaching, is like this belief that like there's somewhere to get to. And in my own journey, my own relationship with personal development, it was always like, when I get to the top of that mountain, then I'll be complete, perfect, whatever. And if I ever perceived myself as backsliding or which I know now it can't really happen, right? Like I don't personally believe that for myself anymore, or that I'm in the same place that I once was. But I said that this morning, like it feels like I'm in the same place because I've got this perspective that there's somewhere to get, that there is like the end point, which would be completion, right? And I know my whole life I've struggled with the things that I actually can't complete, the things that will never be done, the vacuuming, the cleaning the bathroom, the, you know, ongoing chores or parts of my job that need ongoing maintenance, or when I've gained weight and got back to my ideal weight, or when I've been unhealthy in some way and needed some like health interventions, and then I got back to, you know, this place that I was before. It's just so interesting how wasteful I felt that time was, because I wasn't getting closer to the destination or the completeness that I thought I was supposed to be at. But I will say, and this is again one of the practices or the principles of a human, I have so much more grace in that now. Do I still struggle? Yeah, sometimes I do. Like the whole idea of maintenance, like I just want to get new things started and get going on the new things to wherever the heck I don't know. Like it's just funny to think about like how much of my life I've spun out on getting to a place that I don't even know where that place was. I just knew that I was supposed to get to completeness, to completion. So I don't know. I hadn't really applied this principle to that, but that is an area that it shows up really strong for me in terms of when I'm misattributing. Is that what you're using? For me,
I don't remember.
It's when I'm applying the law on the opposite side, thinking that it should be true.
Yeah, because if we think about even like what Gina was saying about the destination, because there's a reason why the two of us, hooked up together in life, because same, right? I was always trying to get to the thing and then I'd go, oh, I've arrived, right? And we're not unique, right? Again, if you're like, yeah, me too. Yes, we get it. Like there's lots of us out there. But there is a place to get, right? There has to be a place to get. Otherwise, we wouldn't be seeking to get there, right? So what is the place to get? The place to get is the place where you recognize that your human will never get anywhere, but that your spirit is already complete, right? So it's not a there, it's a here, it's a knowing, it's the embodiment that the truth is we're human in spirit and our spirit is already complete, so we're okay. I'm okay. I can settle into I am complete. And now the thing that used to be our lack that would drive us to like the more and the more like this is now, oh, I'm already okay. Well, of course I want more, right? And so often we go, oh, people who want more are greedy. And people, but if I said to you, you just took your last breath, you'd be like, wait, I want more breath. If I said you just kissed your child for the last time, you'd be no, I want more kisses for my child. If I said you're never having sex again, or like Gina said, you never get to eat your favorite food again, you'd be like, wait, no, time out. Well, greedy, right? That's greedy. But we don't realize really what we're saying when we only say that those people are greedy because they want money. Oh, okay, well, maybe they just came to the planet to make a lot of money. You came to the planet to paint. And if I said no more painting and you're like, no, I'm going to paint all day long, greedy, it's the same thing. Now, are there people who are shitty and they do shitty things when they have a lot of money? Yeah, guess what? There's painters that do shitty things just because they're shitty people. It has nothing to do with them painting or money or anything, right? It's just they're a shitty person, right? And not that that's bad. Like, again, our model is everything is allowed, but there's things that we attribute to those things that we call like greedy and selfish and right. And we'll just say, you know what? Shitty people. Sometimes people are shitty, right? But it's not the desiring more that makes us greedy, because that again is part of our design, right? So just like again, having those things when we realize, well, I've been living in this program of that thing over there is greedy. When you don't know, we don't know. We don't know who's greedy and who's not greedy. We don't know who's functioning from like their perfection or their lack. We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the idea, because again, greedy is allowed, it's part of the experience, right? But the type, or at least the energy behind what I'm hearing you say is like the wanting and the more from lack, as opposed to like the more from resting on the foundation of we already have. And so we need it because we need it, but not because we need it, because our spirit is already in a place of having, or like, sorry, going back to what we were talking about before though, when you say there is a destination and you're like this internal place, and we play with that in the human though too, like we set goals, right? Like I remember coaching recently and it was like, well, do you need to focus on like there's somewhere to get to right now, or do you need to focus on that there's not? Like,
Yeah.
what's going to be more fun for your human or your, like the integration of you right now? Because when I feel like I have to get to that goal to be okay, not fun. But when I have that goal because it gives my human focus and it gives me
That.
like something to play with until there's something else, like that's really fun. But before, I thought the goal was the thing that was going to make me this in here and getting to that place. And that's been just a really big shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. But playing with like, yeah, there is sometimes a destination. I have this image a lot when I'm talking about the idea of like getting somewhere, that it's like climbing a mountain. And like when it's bad news, right? Like, okay, I'm climbing a mountain, I'm using all of my strength, all of my willpower, I have barely any water left, my pack is really heavy. Then I get to the top and I see there's more. Like that feels awful. But that was the loop or the cycle that I was in, because it was like, oh my God, there's more. More is not good news. Where really I'm learning, like you're talking about, the destination of my human is more.
Yeah.
And it's good news when I'm just, walking along, exploring the scenery, taking in what it feels like to be on the path, the mountain path. I let my backpack off when I need to rest. I take a nap, I hang out, I just allow myself to continue without the idea that I have to get to the top in a certain amount of time with the, this willpower I used to think was going to get me that feeling of okayness.
Yeah. And that really is the when we understand that completeness is on the spirit side. And as we evolve into specifically, we talk a lot about the 4 phases. We talk a lot about the transformation of consciousness, right? We talk about our principles, we talk about our practices, we talk about all that. But really, when we are applying all of this, we're applying it to the red phase where everything is allowed and everything is integrated, right? We feel like we have been invited into the integration of all of this. And I can't remember what I was going to say about that. But I wanted to preface it with something, because again, if somebody's in the black phase, I'm gonna talk to them differently than if I'm inviting somebody into the red phase, right? And when I say phases, states of consciousness is really what they are. There's 4 states of consciousness, at least as far as the model that we use. There's 4 states of consciousness, right? And it's the things are happening to me, things are happening for me, things are happening through me, things are happening as me. And there was going to be, again, something I was going to say about the application of what we're talking about in the red phase, but I believe it was
the destination, willpowering to get to the,
apparently it was supposed to be saved for another time.
And like always, I just like to encourage you, if you're listening, to like, how does this land for you? How does it feel in your body when you think about, this idea of my human being incomplete and imperfect, yet
by design. Yes.
Yeah, by design. And that
not because something went, sorry, I want to interrupt again, like not because something went wrong. You are incomplete by design. By design, nothing's gone wrong. There would be no experience if we weren't designed incomplete. Okay, I don't know why I got really excited about that.
Yeah,
but it excites me.
Yeah. What does it feel like for you when you digest that, when you pull that into your mind and your body? How does it feel? What comes up? That's what all this is about. It's about knowing us at a deeper level, knowing us more and more and more. So if nothing else, hopefully you know yourself a little bit better after today.
Heck yeah. All right, you guys. Well, have a great day or night, wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you next week.